Hola, Darren Austin Hall here with another Wisdom Warrior spiritual talk coming to you from Santa Teresa, Costa Rica, where I've been this whole year. And Costa Rica is my new home for many reasons, but foremost just because of what you're seeing around you. Beautiful nature. Mother Earth is very loud and proud here, and I've decided to live closer to her, the nectar of her wisdom and guidance. So today I want to talk about this growing trend of what some are calling the techno-tyranny state that's being enacted and exploiting the COVID pandemic. I was just sent a video today by a friend, which was an interview or a feature, on NBC News, like very mainstream, about a company that has started microchipping their employees so they can use such things as the vending machine in their staff room with more ease. And it was really presented, they literally had a microchip party where the CEO of the company was getting injected with a needle with this microchip under their skin, and all the employees were around smiling, awaiting their microchip. And it was very eye-opening just to see how NBC was making this jovial experience, something that we should be embracing, this technology and stuff. And it was really kind of scary to witness that kind of presentation of things. And this, of course, has been sort of in the realm of conspiracy theories, and yet another conspiracy theory becoming conspiracy reality, of this microchipping of people as a means to create a more controlled surveillance state, and all kinds of nefarious ideas that can come out of that. Not to speak of course, to balance like conveniences, which could be done with microchipping, creating a greater database, especially in a COVID culture where, people like Bill Gates are presenting the idea of needing these microchips, or what he's euphemistically calling a quantum tattoo, which is still an injection under the skin, so that we can keep better track of people and their health, now that we live in this pandemic world. And to me, this is very eye-opening to witness things that have been sort of kept in the shadows for a very long time. I mean, I first heard about this idea of people being microchipped, like a decade ago, in some of my conspiracy research at the time. So to see it being presented in reality is quite eye-opening. And it's very interesting that in terms of like Bill Gates and the patents that he's been creating with MIT, one of the patents for these microchips, you can look this up, it's public information. The patent's number is literally like 666 point something or other, which is really interesting considering 666 is known to be a Luciferian number and considered to be the mark of the beast. And there is this passage in the Bible, I think in the book of Revelations, where it's literally discussed that the time of the Antichrist will be when people can't do things like banking without this mark on their wrists or their forehead. So it's really interesting to just see the convergence of all this symbology and all these ideas right now. And then you sort of can dovetail that with what was also recently brought forth with Elon Musk creating this Neuralink, this idea of literally putting technology into our brain, kind of like Matrix style, which I know on one level is like, oh, really cool. I can like learn Spanish or Kung Fu in like an hour. And they've even like the first prototype was putting it into a pig, into an animal, poor animal, let's just experiment with the animals and throw these weird radical technologies in them and see, what can happen. Really, really scary stuff for me, in the sense that as I've written about, as I've spoken about in length, I've been a pretty vocal critic of these kinds of technologies and this kind of science for a very long time. And I'm not a Luddite, and I'm not like some far right, super ultra conservative. I know we live in this time where everyone's just trying to label each other to try and understand the great shifts that are happening, because there's shifts happening on every dimension right now. And the logical mind, of course, wants to like freeze time by providing a label so it's easier to understand and digest what is happening. But that is really not the way to go about reality right now. It's really more about surrendering to the unknown, to the great mystery of these changes that are happening on the planet, and realizing that they're not simply changes orchestrated by human beings. This is orchestrated by cosmic synchronicities, and this is something that the Mayans and their genius calendar were talking about with galactic evolutions, and the fact that we're in the ninth wave of galactic consciousness, which began on the winter solstice in 2012. And it's the wave of unity. So that means that everything that is dissonant, everything that is not in unity, is being flushed out of the consciousness system of the universe and our galaxy. So that's one of the reasons that we're right now seeing all of this stuff. It's almost like the detox process, where you go through this process initially where all the sickness and all the toxins comes out of the body. It's sweated out. It can take the form of sores in the body, phlegm, excretions. We're really in that phase right now. So we're really seeing all this crap that's been really hidden from view. It's been clandestine, and now it's being really brought forth. And the techno-tyranny agenda is, to me, one of the most brazen examples of just symbolizing the woundedness of human consciousness right now, particularly among those that have risen to power in the political sphere, in our governments, in industry. There's a certain kind of elitism that has been ruling the day there for a very long time. Very much like a carryover from feudalism and monarchies. We just haven't gotten to the root of healing this human elitist, sociopathic, even psychopathic complex. And now it's coming out in a very world domination type of scheme. And it's very interesting if you witness since COVID hit, and some of the things I've been sharing. Long ago, actually, I shared a video on YouTube by Jimmy Dore, who's this kind of left-wing comedian guy. And he's, I shouldn't say left-wing, the label thing is so instinctual. He's really more just this beautiful human being who dances through all the polarities. And he shared, he did an interview with this young woman who's an investigative reporter who did a Freedom of Information Act request, and got these documents from the U.S. government that really showed that they were publicly or basically announcing in private, rather, that they were going to use COVID to basically streamline this technological culture where everything would be integrated with an artificial intelligence, that 5G, all the 5G networks are being brought forth to create the Internet of Things, where you could have a full automation of everything from cars to delivery systems. And they're really looking at creating this fully automated digital AI interface culture. And in China, they're actually already doing this in a lot of ways. I also shared videos of classrooms in China where they literally have children wearing like these headbands that can scan their brainwaves. So the teacher has this monitor at the front and can tell which students are concentrated and which are distracted in class, which for the logical, rational scientists seems like a great thing. But of course, for those who are more also artistic, more in touch with their feminine side, I know for me, I was always a daydreamer at school because I'm very artistic. So you wonder, what is this going to do to humanity to have this one biased view of what is right and what should be controlled being brought forth in the school system, which is like a very developmental stage of really conditioning human beings into who they are. Really, really dangerous, if you ask me. And this is really the problem, as I mentioned, the bias. And why I've been a critic of science and technology is because in our culture, they are religion. Science, materialist, positive science rules our culture. It's pretty much the perspective that we look at the world is through the scientific gaze. And there's beautiful people like David Noble who have written in length about how when you look at like the origins of science, it was very much a patriarchal, male-based, all about rationalism sense of the world. And that was never checked. That's just how it's evolved throughout the centuries to now where you have this pinnacle of AI, which is like fully structured, logical, like toxic masculinity, if you ask me. It's masculinity that's not integrated with the feminine. It's just looking for total control over the human being. And COVID is being exploited for that. And we are just more and more increasingly seeing this bifurcation, as I've mentioned before, where more and more people are going to be choosing, this narrative that they're being fed that COVID is actually super, super dangerous, even though the CDC has recently released yet another report where they've downgraded it. And it's really showing there's just an armada now of scientists and doctors who've come forth saying this pandemic was one of the worst decisions, or the response and the creation of this pandemic response was one of the worst decisions we've made as a human species. And that's just not being checked. There's clearly this agenda that's being brought forth to keep drumming the fear and to utilize COVID to bring forth this new world order. I mean, you see it there's like a music video that was recently created, like I think sponsored by the United Nations. And the United Nations even has this on like their website, that they're bringing forth this new world order. I mean, these are all the things that were conspiracy theory a long time ago, and the light of consciousness now is shining so deep into the dark depths that all of this stuff is being seen now. It's being exposed. And it's up to us to be very aware at our choice points right now. Like, what is happening in the world? What do we want to choose to be our reality? We are all sovereign beings. We don't have to wait for these elites to make these decisions for us. We can start our own communities, our own culture, our own rebirth, which is so needed right now, our own symbiotic relationship with the earth, which is the bifurcation in my mind that's happening right now. As you have on one side this growing techno-tyrannical civilization that is being desperately ushered in by these elites who, are trying to not only maintain political power, but in some ways it's like kind of an end game scenario where they can have a total global control system. And this is not sci-fi anymore. This is not fiction. I mean, when you look at like the 5G technology in terms of just the satellite array, and how in 2020 they are literally launching tens of thousands of satellites to constantly beam us with 5G radiation. I mean, that's just monumental. And did any of us get to vote on that? Did any of us get to decide on that? Just absolute sociopathy. This mode of science, this mode of thinking needs to be checked. And thank gosh, there's a lot of us who are ferociously checking it. And some of us, like myself, we're just choosing to just leave that culture behind and seek places where we can just start anew. This is why I've been so enthralled by eco-villages, and I've been visiting them over the years because I have great respect for the brazen courage of human beings who say, you know what, enough is enough. I'm done with living in this social order that is toxic, that is anti-human, anti-life, that goes against the dharma of the universe. And let's get some people together and really live as we used to, bringing the great wisdoms of our ancestors, especially those who were indigenous, who knew this, and start to live more in rapport with nature and the earth. There's literally a whole other mode of how we could live on this planet that could be incredibly celestial, heavenly, like paradise on earth style. And a lot of it is foregoing the need to perpetually advance technology and to further interface us with technology. I mean, when you read the remarks of AI scientists, I mean, they speak in this giddy way about how flawed and limited the human being is and how we need to improve it with machines. And it's just this hangover from fundamentalist religions, that have seen the human being as originally sinful and denigrated nature. I mean, gosh, look at what Francis Bacon, the founder of basically scientific method in modern science, how he writes about nature, how we should put it on the rack and basically rape it to gain its secrets. I mean, it's just disgusting when you view into the mindset. We need to really analyze what is the level of consciousness that is creating this technology. I'm all for technology. Technology is just the development of tools, useful tools. But what I'm not for is unabated, unchecked technology when we don't look into the actual mindset of these scientists, of the ideas that are being brought forth, the hidden agendas. We really, really need to be at a mode right now, and this is why communities are really important. We need to gather our communities and do a lot of inquiry on a personal level, but as a collective level, into our human species, inquiry into our belief systems, inquiry into the behaviors that those belief systems are creating. Because we're living in a time now where the level of consequence with the power that we now have with these technologies we've developed are so immense. We literally have the power to destroy the ecosystem of the planet. We're already doing it. We need to take a stop, which is on one level, on one dimension, what COVID is. It's a sacred pausing moment. And I think a lot of us who are awakening to this are doing this. We're taking a stop. A lot of work is being done on a personal level. I've been really amazed to see how many people deep dived into self-development this year, because I think a lot of people are realizing we are being offered a chance here in this kind of Aquarian age, this pivot into a new age, to really regenerate and rebirth our culture, to re-enchant the world. And it's very important right now for us to really investigate our beliefs and what beliefs have we been sort of running in our bodies, in our beings, in our cultures for hundreds and thousands of years. Like, what are these beliefs? And I think that's a very exciting thing to be doing. And it's exciting to see more and more people discussing this. And with things like the internet, like I said, not all technology is bad. And what the internet has provided us in the last 20 or so years is this opportunity to just witness all of human knowledge, all of human wisdom projected into a kind of database where we can start to really learn, from all this wisdom from many different places all over the world, many different timelines. We really have this like incredible perspective and gaze on ourselves and on our sense of reality. And it's time to really, really take stock of where we are and where we want to be going. I take a lot of heart in what some indigenous teachers have told me about how when you make big decisions, you should think about what are the effects going to be like 6 generations down the line? Like, what a kind of beautiful long view is that? And how many of these people who are talking about like microchipping the population are thinking like, where is this going to lead us in 6 generations? I mean, maybe they are, but it doesn't seem like the most positive scenario. On the other hand, a lot of us are also realizing that the most advanced technology is nature. My gosh, I just saw the documentary Fantastic Fungi, and just seeing like the absolute advanced technology that is mycelium, the mycelium networks all over the planet, just how amazing the interdependence of ecosystems are, how they cooperate and work together. It's just mind-blowing when you study nature and realize that there is already this advanced technology. And then it bodes the question of the great mystery of who created nature, who created that technology. That's a really powerful thing to sit with and contemplate. So I'd much rather see that kind of humility in our humanity, really looking into nature and having a lot more respect for the beautiful advanced technologies around us that you see behind me. And I know that a lot of the great scientists throughout the ages, like Leonardo da Vinci and all the great sages in the Eastern wisdom traditions, they, spoke about how a lot of their teachings, a lot of their learnings rather, came from literally living in nature. The forest-dwelling yogis, for example, the Taoists. When you see the level of wisdom that is transmitted from Mother Earth itself, it's incredible. It's absolutely inspiring and mind-blowing. And that's really where we need to get and to gather in our life. So we really need to check, the human supremacy complex as well, which is something that I've written about. If you go on my IG, Darren Druid, there's a beautiful post I made a while back about the human supremacy complex, how this is the deeper root of the problem, notwithstanding things like white supremacy. No, we need to go much deeper to the root cause of this toxicity on the planet, which is really the human supremacy complex, seeing ourselves as the most supreme life form on the planet, which counters indigenous understanding, which more or less sees us as a part of this grander whole. And really, the greater ultimate thing right now, it's not about COVID, it's about how do we reharmonize with the natural environment to once again become people of the earth and people of the cosmos. This is what's really, really important right now. So I'll conclude this by just saying to just be aware of what's happening in terms of the technologies that are being rolled out, that are being that are being established in our culture, that are being slowly promulgated by the governments and the captains of industry, and to really take a moment to question these and to question where we're going. And if you've been fed up with this system for as long as I have, it's time to start getting that pioneering Aquarian mindset on and start to think about what really radical pioneering changes can you make in your life. And that may be, as I've decided, to move to a place on the earth where earth is much more present and civilization is not as developed, and coming to forge an alliance with the peoples of that land, with the indigenous of that land, and with the life forms of this land, so that we can reestablish true universal indigenous culture once again. And I speak, of course, as well as European indigenous people, the pagans and such. We all have this in our blood, this remembrance that we all used to live as indigenous people, as people of the earth, as earth children. And we are being asked to bring that forth now in a new octave once again. And the techno-tyranny stuff is really just a motivation. It's also a positive thing, because it's allowing us to see a very stark choice point that may have been hidden before, and now it's very clear what's happening, and it's asking us to respond to that, not necessarily to react, although it can be so triggering, it can make you angry, it can make you despairing, but just trust that it's part of a greater cosmic plan to really initiate us into really powerful responsive action, which in my mind is about really creating these new earth cultures, new civilizations that are foremost in alliance and allegiance with the earth, with the living presence of the earth, the goddess that is Gaia, Sophia, many, many, many names, and really figuring out a way that we can once again live in harmony with her sacred ecology. So I'll leave it there. Hope you're all doing very, very well, and just wanted to leave you with this little quick update on my double album, Honor All Creation. We have the first music video being premiered for the lead single, Oh My Goddess, on the fall equinox on September 22nd, and we are going to be doing a very special premiere event that day online. Stefan Key, who's producing the album, and myself, we're going to be offering a sonic medicine ritual for the fall equinox at 1:11 p.m. Eastern Time. And if you go to the bio on Darren Druid, at Darren Druid on Instagram, you'll find a little link there to the Facebook event. Or if you go onto Facebook and look up my artist page, Darren Austin Hall, and a few titles after that, you'll see the event and the event listings. We will put the details there close to the date on how it's going to come forth, whether it's going to be Facebook Live, Zoom, or a combination of both. And the album is almost done, and then it's going to go through a mixing and mastering process. It's not going to be released probably until the winter solstice, but there's going to be a lot of nuggets released before that to really give you a deeper sense of what's coming, because this album is truly a soundtrack to all the things I'm talking about, the shift into these new cosmic earth paradigms and cultures, really, that we're all being asked to create together in this beautiful, magnificent shift that we're going through. Be glorious, and speak to you soon. All the love and glory to you.